Have you ever read the same short message 3 times, hunting for the tone in it? Maybe you checked how long they took to reply and decided what that meant about you. Maybe you've lain awake at 1 in the morning, replaying a conversation from Tuesday, finally delivering the perfect answer you didn't say. Here's what nobody tells you. You don't have an overthinking problem. You have a translation problem. Somewhere between what people actually said and what you actually heard, you have been adding words that were never there, and then living inside them. His name was Marco. He was a hospital interpreter. He was paid to carry other people's words across 2 languages without adding a single thing, and he was flawless at it. He had just never once done it for himself. Then, a 71-year-old man handed him a napkin with a line drawn down the middle and gave him 90 days. Stay with me until the end. Marco Duarte was 34, and his entire job was carrying words. 11 years at the same county hospital on the south side of San Antonio. Spanish to English, English to Spanish, 8 hours a day, in the rooms where the sentences matter most. Diagnosis rooms, consent forms, the small 3rd-floor room where doctors tell families the thing they came in praying not to hear. He was extraordinary at it. There is a rule in medical interpreting that sounds simple and is nearly impossible. Do not add, do not subtract, do not decorate. If the doctor says, the tumor has spread, you do not soften it. If a terrified mother says, I don't believe you, you say it in her voice, at her volume, protecting nobody in the room. Marco could do that for strangers, 8 hours a day, without missing a syllable. Afterward, walking out of the hard rooms, his hands would shake. 11 years, and they still did. He had learned to hold the badge lanyard with 2 fingers so nobody would see it. And then he would walk 12 feet into the hallway and become somebody else entirely. His supervisor would send a 4-line email, and Marco would read it 4 times, hunting for tone. Let's touch base Thursday. Why Thursday? Why not today? What happened between yesterday and Thursday? He remembered exact sentences. That was his gift and his disease. He could quote something his brother said at a birthday party in 2013, the tone, the pause before it, who laughed. He had muted the family group chat for 2 years over one comment about his car. At home, his wife Anna would look up from the kitchen table and say, "You're quiet tonight." And he wasn't quiet. He was in court, prosecuting, defending, delivering closing arguments to people who were, at that moment, asleep in their own houses, having completely forgotten they said anything at all. Anna taught 4th grade. Sophia was 9, with a purple backpack that hung on a hook by the front door, and a habit that Marco had noticed and never once asked about. Before Sophia said anything at the dinner table, she would look at his face first. Every night. A quick check. Like a person testing the weather before stepping outside, Marco told himself it was nothing. In February, the hospital posted the coordinator job, language services, running the department Marco had worked in for 11 years. He didn't apply. He waited, because in Marco's court it was already decided. 11 years, the hardest rooms, the interpreter the surgeons asked for by name. They would come to him. Everyone knew it was his. The announcement email came out on a Tuesday at 4:50 p.m. The job went to Carla Medina. 6 years on the job, good interpreter, not 11 years. Marco read it in the stairwell. Then he read it 9 more times. That night, he sat at the kitchen table in the dark and wrote 600 words to Dana Whitaker, the director who had hired him. He was careful with it. That was the horrible part. He chose each word the way he chose them in a consent form, so it would land exactly where he wanted. He wrote about favoritism. He wrote, "I have given this hospital 11 years, and apparently that is worth less than being convenient." And he wrote 2 sentences about Carla that he would spend the rest of the year trying to unhear. At 1:12 in the morning, he hit send. The sound the laptop made was small, a little rush of air. Anna found him there 20 minutes later. She sat down across from him and said, gently, the thing she had already said to him 3 times in 2 years, the 3 times he had explained away. "You don't know why they picked her. You're deciding you know." And Marco, who had spent 11 years never adding a single word that wasn't said, turned and said, "Of course you'd say that. You always land on their side. You've never once been on mine." He heard it come out of his mouth. He heard the shape of it. And then he heard the stairs. Sophia was standing on the 3rd step in her pajamas, holding the rail, doing exactly what she did at dinner, reading his face. She didn't cry. She just turned around and went back up. 3 days later, Marco sat in that 3rd-floor consult room, where he had interpreted 1,000 conversations that changed people's lives, and this time nobody needed translating. Dana Whitaker and a woman from Employee Relations read him a written warning. Unprofessional conduct. It goes in your file. He signed it and walked out past the plastic chairs where the families wait. That Friday, Anna packed 2 bags. She wasn't cruel about it. She stood in the doorway with her car keys and said, "I'm not leaving you, Marco. I'm taking Sophia somewhere quiet for a couple of weeks. She asked me something last night, and I need you to hear it." He asked what? She asked me, "Mommy, is Poppy mad at me?" Anna picked up the bags. "She asks me that almost every week. She's 9. She reads your face before she talks to you." That hook was the last thing Marco looked at every night for 11 nights. Marco started picking up the late shift. Not for the money, because the apartment at night had a hook in it. The late shift at that hospital belonged to Rafael Ortega. Rafael was 71 and had been interpreting in that building for 40 years. He had trained half the department. Surgeons who were rude to everyone were not rude to Rafael. That night they came out of a room together where Rafael had just interpreted for a father being told he'd be on dialysis 3 days a week and would lose the commercial license he'd driven on for 20 years. The man had gotten loud. Rafael had not. In the hallway, Rafael said, without any particular drama, "You're the best interpreter in this building." Marco started to say thank you. "And you're the worst listener I have ever met." Rafael sat him down in the break room and pulled a napkin out of the dispenser. He drew a line down the middle. "Tell me what Whitaker said when she gave you the warning. Her words. You're an interpreter. Exact." Marco gave it. "This email was unprofessional. It goes in your file. Take a week and think about whether you want to be here." Rafael wrote it in the left column. Then he tapped the right column. "Now tell me what you heard." Marco was quiet for a second. "Then, that she's finished with me, that 11 years didn't count, that I'm on my way out, and she's just being polite about it." Rafael turned the napkin around. "This side is data. This side is fiction. You wrote it, you published it, and then you got angry at the author." He let that sit. "You do it perfectly for strangers all day. Then you go home and decorate every sentence your wife says until it means something she never said." Then Rafael asked him to count, not to change anything, just to count. For 7 days, every time Marco caught himself replaying a conversation, he marked it in his phone with the minutes. Rafael did the arithmetic on a fresh napkin, out loud, slowly, the way you do when you want a number to hurt. 2 conversations a day, 20 minutes each. 40 minutes a day, 40 minutes, 365 days, 14,600 minutes, 243 hours, 30 working days a year. He looked up. You've been in this building 11 years. Call it 2,700 hours, 334 working days. More than a year of your working life, Marco, spent in a courtroom nobody else ever showed up to. There are 4 agreements, Rafael said. They're not mine. A patient left a book behind in this hospital in 1998. The 4 Agreements by a Mexican surgeon named Miguel Ruiz. I've had 26 years to test them on the hardest man I know, which is me. 90 days, 3 weeks each, in order, and the last month you carry all 4 at once. Marco asked for all 4 now, so he could get started. No, you'd collect them. People collect 4 rules and change nothing. Tonight, you get 2. Rafael held up one finger. 1. Be impeccable with your word. Say only what you'd be willing to have read out loud in a room, with your daughter standing in it. That includes what you say about yourself at 1 a.m. Your word built the house you're living in. Look around it. 2. Don't take anything personally. In this building, I have been screamed at in 2 languages, called a liar, called worse. None of it was ever about me. I was the window they were shouting through. What people say is a report on their weather, not a verdict on your worth. Marco asked when he got the 3rd one. Rafael put his cup in the sink. When you've earned it, start Monday. And if you quit, don't call me. I'm too old to watch a man start over twice. The 1st agreement is the loneliest, because nothing visible happens. Marco made 1 rule out of it. Nothing important gets sent between 10 at night and 8 in the morning. That first week, he typed 4 messages and deleted all 4. Day 6, he relapsed. A sarcastic text to his brother at 11:40 p.m. He apologized at 7 a.m., badly, in 1 sentence. Day 11, he did the hard one. He asked Carla Medina for 10 minutes, closed the door, and told her exactly what he had written about her at 1 a.m, word for word, no explanation. Carla looked at him a long moment. Okay, thank you for saying it to my face. Then, you should have applied, Marco. Day 14, he called Anna, not to negotiate. I'm not calling to fix anything. I want to say that what I said to you at that table was wrong. Sophia heard it, and I'm not going to explain why I said it. There was a long pause. Anna said, okay, that was all. At 10 that night, a text came. Sophia has her spelling bee Thursday. She wants to know if you're coming. Day 18, school cafeteria, folding chairs, a paper banner. Sophia got to the microphone, and before she said a single letter, she found her father's face in the 4th row and checked it. Marco smiled at her. Not a big smile, a steady one. She misspelled necessary. On the walk back to her seat, she looked again, and he was smiling exactly the same way. The 2 weeks became 3, then a month. Nobody renegotiated it out loud. It just stopped being a number. The 2nd agreement got tested immediately because Carla was now his boss. Day 27. A surgeon snapped at Marco in front of a patient's family. Can you keep up? Or do we need somebody who can? The old Marco had a 30-hour reply for that. New Marco finished the session, walked to the stairwell, and said 1 sentence out loud to nobody. That's his weather. Then he went back in and did the job. Day 34 is the day he noticed his hands. He came out of a 4-hour session in the ICU and reached for the lanyard out of habit, the 2-finger grip he'd used for 11 years. There was nothing to hide. His hands were flat and steady in the fluorescent light. He stood in that hallway looking at them like they belonged to somebody else. It didn't go in a straight line. Day 38. Marco drove to Anna's mother's house and parked across the street. Through the front window he could see Sophia at the table doing homework, kicking one leg the way she does. He sat there 40 minutes and never got out of the car. Then he drove to the hospital and found Rafael eating his sandwich in the break room at midnight. It's not working. I'm doing all of it, and my house is still empty. Rafael didn't look up. What would she be walking into tonight? A man who heard 2 rules? Or a man who changed? Marco didn't answer. Good. You're ready for the 3rd one. 3. Don't make assumptions. Ask. That's the napkin. Left column only. The second the right column starts writing itself, you stop and you ask one question, out loud to the actual person, before you build a single sentence of story. This is where Marco's life actually turned, and it started as a chore. In 3 weeks he logged 40 of them. 40 stories, 40 questions asked out loud. 33 times the answer was nothing like the story. More than 8 out of 10. 11 years of a career built on precision, and in his own life he was running an accuracy rate that would have gotten him fired from his own department. Day 61, he asked the big one. He knocked on Dana Whitaker's door. 1 question, and I'll take whatever the answer is. Why wasn't I considered for coordinator? Dana looked at him a second, then turned her monitor around. 2 emails, March 2022, April 2023, both from her, both nominating Marco for the leadership development track, and both explaining that the next step was a 40-hour management certificate and a proctored exam he had to apply for himself. He had read them both. He remembered them both exactly, the way he remembered everything. He had decided both times they were form letters, the kind of thing they send everybody. He never replied. Dana said, "You never answered, twice, so I assumed you didn't want it." 2 people. 1 hallway apart. Both assuming. 2 years gone. Marco asked one more question. When's the next exam? June 10th. 3.5 weeks. Rafael gave him the last one in the parking lot. 4. Always do your best, and let your best change. Your best on the day your family is gone is not your best on a Tuesday in June. Some days, your best is 3 hours at that table. Some days, it's 20 minutes, and 20 minutes still counts. That's the rule that stops people quitting on day 6. So he studied. Some nights 3 hours, some nights when the apartment got loud with nothing, 20 minutes. Day 74, his phone lit up with a text from Anna. 4 words, "We need to talk." The old Marco would have built a courtroom that night and lived in it until the weekend. New Marco read the left column, 4 words, no tone, no history, and typed back, "Of course. Good news or hard news? Just so I show up right." Anna answered in under a minute. "Good, I think." Day 77. Sunday afternoon. Anna and Sophia came by. Sophia was in the middle of a story about a girl in her class, mouth full of cereal, and halfway through it, Marco realized what was missing. She hadn't checked his face. Not once. She just talked. The way kids talk to people they aren't afraid of. Marco went and stood in the kitchen for a minute. Day 86, he passed the exam. 88 out of 100. He came home that evening, unlocked the door, and the first thing he saw wasn't Anna, and it wasn't Sophia. It was a purple backpack, hanging on a hook. The clean mark on the paint was covered. He stood in the doorway with his keys in his hand and didn't move for a while. 1 year to the week after he read that announcement in a stairwell, Marco was the language services coordinator. Carla had moved up to run patient experience for the whole system. When the job opened again, she was the one who told him to apply, and Dana signed the endorsement. He runs the training program now, 14 new interpreters a year. The first thing he teaches on day 1 isn't vocabulary, it's a napkin with a line drawn down the middle. Rafael retired that spring, after 41 years. On his last shift, Marco walked him to the parking lot and finally asked the question he'd been carrying. Why me? You've watched hundreds of us come through here. Rafael took a while. 2 of those agreements were already your job. Do not add, do not decorate. You've done it 8 hours a day for 11 years. He opened his car door. The other 2, you never had to learn, because strangers never got close enough to hurt you. I didn't fix anything, Marco. I just told you to take it home. There's a rule in that apartment now. At dinner, everybody says one sentence they actually mean. Sophia invented it. Sophia enforces it. And she doesn't check the weather anymore. None of that cost Marco $1. Here's the whole thing. As 4 actions you can do this week. Write it down before you send it. If you wouldn't want it read out loud in a room with the person you love most standing in it, it isn't finished. Nothing important leaves your hands between 10 at night and 8 in the morning. Name the weather. When something stings, say 4 words out loud. That's their weather. Then go back and do the job. Their storm was never addressed to you. You just keep signing for it. Draw the line down the napkin. Left side, the exact words. Right side, the story you added. Then go ask the actual person 1 real question. Marco was wrong more than 8 times out of 10. 2 emails, 2 years, 1 hallway, and nobody asked. Let your best change size. Some days your best is 3 hours. Some days it's 20 minutes. 20 minutes counts. That's the agreement that keeps you from quitting on day 6. 90 days, 1 at a time, 3 weeks each, in that order. Not all 4 at once. Marco couldn't, and neither can you. Tonight, somebody is going to say something to you, and you are going to hear more than they said. That's the moment. That's where the whole thing is won or lost. If this reached you, like the video, not for me, for the version of you that's tired of running that courtroom every night. And in the comments, finish this sentence. The question I've been afraid to ask, and who I'm finally asking it to. Say it out loud tonight, then actually go ask. Because one side of that napkin is data, the other side is fiction you wrote, and then got angry at the author for writing. You are the interpreter of your own life. Stop adding words.